Hello, everyone. It is Barbara Brooks. It has been a while since I've hosted my very own Ask the Expert, our new series, The Scoop. And today we're talking with a good friend of ours, an advisor of SecondActWomen, about the power of storytelling and really, frankly, how it can help you grow your business, your brand, and that includes your personal brand. Storytelling is powerful. And so let's just give you a little information. Storytelling in its simplest form is a connection of cause and effect. It's the narrative. Think about this. It's the narrative that helps us make sense of the world around us. In fact, in every conversation, it's typically dominated by a story. What was the story you just told someone maybe this morning, yesterday, or perhaps last week? What was that story? Did it have depth? Did it have meaning? Well, today we're going to be talking about how exactly you can do that, how you can bring forth the power of telling your particular story. Because what are you selling today? What are your products? Are you a lifestyle coach? Are you a business coach? Are you in tech? Are you a marketing guru? What is it that you do? Because if you think about it, chances are someone else, thousands of someones do exactly what you do. So how are you telling your story differently? How are you setting yourself apart? Well, storytelling can do exactly that. It helps you connect with your audience and build rapport and authenticity. It helps you and them understand who you are, how you're going to serve them, and where you're going in life or business. So with that said, I want to welcome you to The Scoop. I'm Barbara Brooks, and I am the CEO and founder of SecondActWomen. For those of you that are new to the community, I personally want to welcome you. There are now 4,000 of you within our Facebook community. And to those of you on LinkedIn and YouTube, we welcome you just as much. So we started The Scoop, to give our community of women over 40 and 50 the chance to ask an expert in their field how it is they can move forward. How can they push forward in this time of gendered ageist bias? And so through the power of storytelling and all the other topics that we will be bringing you, women and men, because we're on LinkedIn, we are here to help you. Our experts are here to serve you through their stories, through what they've done to help you cross over whatever issue or thing that you need help in doing to achieve your best in business, in career, and in life. Now, I'm so excited to bring on this really, quite frankly, amazing human being. I'm going to tell you, I'm not going to give his story away. I'm going to leave that to him. But Robb Brown is not only a personal friend of mine from, 15 years ago, but he also serves as one of our advisors of SecondActWomen. He is known here in Denver, Colorado, as the prominent retail strategist who leverages his very extensive retail experience in commercial real estate and airport environments to help stimulate the purposeful community engagement with real estate, and on top of that, help them improve their financial performance. So with that said, I want to welcome to, I almost said the morning cup, but to The Scoop, Robb Brown. How are you today?
I'm good, Barbara. How are you?
I'm doing wonderful. It's always so lovely to have a different species on with us today. It's so rare.
Yeah, I appreciate the opportunity to add a little diversity, some species diversity to
diversity in many reasons, right?
Right.
Yes. And so, Robb, you're not from Denver. You're from an entirely different state, although you've planted yourself firmly here in Denver. But you do travel the United States, you've lived abroad, you are doing things, but you're also an amazing storyteller. When people listen to you, it's like this, And so I would love for you to share with our audience your own story of who Robb Brown is, the kid out of Ohio.
That's right. Just a little, I feel like John Cougar Mellencamp, just a country boy or something like that. But I didn't grow up in the country, but in my first act, I grew up in Cleveland, Ohio, small Midwestern city relative to the big ones, New York, Chicago. But I grew up in the Midwest, two loving, parents, a sister, and we kind of born and raised in Cleveland Heights, which is a small middle-class suburb for the most part. And it was pretty diverse, a neighborhood. And, my parents always thought education was the most important thing that we could do, coming out of Jim Crow and segregation and civil rights. They saw that, being parents to young Black kids, you got to make sure they have an education to compete and help, forge their own way. So at a very young age, education was pushed throughout the household, going to high school and doing your homework. There were no accolades for that. That was expected. It was like, hey, can I get $5 because Jimmy got $5 for doing his homework and getting A's. They're like, you're supposed to get A's. You're like, I'm not rewarding you for doing that.
For doing what you're supposed to do?
Yeah, like you don't get any credit for cleaning your room and all that. Like, you live here, we let you eat food. That's about all you're gonna get, But no, it was a good household, obviously, and it just the hard work ethic was there. I always was interested in business. My parents, my dad was a mechanical engineer. My mom worked and had various jobs along the way. Where, she had a travel agency. She did volunteer work. She ended up working in schools and as a guidance counselor, so helping other, less fortunate kids, find their way through, through their adolescence and helping them become productive young adults. So I always saw that as an image as to how you can kind of give back to the community once you've quote unquote, forged your way. But education was important. We went from public school to private, and in college, by the time I got there, I always knew I wanted to be in business. So I started thinking about ways I could, create a path for myself, and growing up as a kid in the 80s, where consumption was everything and the flash, right? 80s represent, I wanted to be in business, and there was something about that because my parents were, not blue collar, but, kind of in that in between blue collar, white collar, and they knew the importance of good jobs, but they went to work every single day. And when I got to private schools, when I saw people that lived in those big houses, every community has got these streets where these humongous houses, and you wonder what people do in those homes. And for me, it was like, I actually got to meet the kids who live there and then sit there and ask their parents, well, wait a minute, what do you do? And then there were jobs I'd never even heard of. I mean, you hear of doctor, you hear of attorney, but you don't hear of all these other jobs that most of us do. And so it opened my eyes to what was possible and kind of helped me forge ahead. But I was the kid in the neighborhood who was always, raking leaves, shoveling snow, trying to get a couple of extra dollars because my parents, eventually I convinced them to give me that $2 every 2 weeks allowance, right?
Ooh,
so
you got it. $2, $8 oh, I just did the math wrong. Yeah, $8 a month.
$4 a month. No, it was every 2 weeks.
Oh, every 2 weeks.
$4 a month, right? So I had to figure out ways.
Or what?
That's right. So I had to figure out ways to get more money. And, I saw people shoveling snow and raking leaves and taking out their trash. And I was like, hey, can I do that for you? Can I do that for you? So, those are like the seedlings of, being an entrepreneur, like seeing the opportunity to figure out how can I get my goals by making myself available to what other people need in terms of a service, and that's kind of how it started. And in high school, I did some internships working at banks, working for bigger companies. By the time I got to college, I was an economics major, wanted to study, and I wanted to do international business because that was some of what my internships in high school kind of led me to. So I, majored in Spanish and minor in economics, minor in French. So I was ready to do kind of these international things. And, it's funny, what athletic director actually said to me, you're going to be a millionaire one day, because in between games I went to a very small college called Bates College in Lewiston, Maine. And I saw that there was no concessions in the gym. It was a small, tiny gym for a small school.
Oh, no.
Yeah. So one day I just went to the grocery store and I bought like those big Halloween bags of candy. And I just started, as a student, I just started selling them to the other students at halftime. Like, hey, you guys need some candy or something? So
I love it.
Just hustling those little things, but
hustling,
but just trying to fill the need and fill the gap, and I was able to find a way to get involved in something I really was interested in, which was commercial real estate, after I graduated from college and after I lived in Europe for a little bit, and then came back. And it was almost the same thing. Like, evaluating real estate is really assessing what people need, be it multifamily, office, industrial, retail. You have to read a market, read your audience, and figure out what they need and how you can provide them with solutions. So somehow I was always, I was given that kind of vantage point as a little kid. And then I was able to kind of formalize that in the business setting. Yeah.
So, okay. So then let's talk about how it is. So you studied those. And so, guys, he really does. And he speaks 3 languages to this day, correct?
Yes, si, and oui.
I love it. Well, what about your business? How does it solve through storytelling? What does it solve? And you're hireable because, and then we're going to get into taking questions about storytelling. And before we do that, or right after you tell your story, we're going to give the 3 key goals of today's session.
Sure. So I'll give you the reason why I left. So I had a great corporate job for 11 years. It brought me to Colorado to oversee a large 4,700 acre redevelopment and all the retail development that happened there. So I was responsible for filling kind of the hole in the donut and providing retail opportunities, restaurants, services for a community of 30 to 40,000 people. And in doing that, I had to tell the story about what this land was going to look like in 30 years. But at the time, we literally just had flat land, tumbleweeds, coyotes really running across the land. And what I realized, the key to all of this really, I think, is listening to what your quote unquote customer is telling you about how they started their business, and thinking about those answers in the context of what you have to sell, what you want to provide. And the better that you can listen to people, rather than, when I first got in the business, I would practice overnight and what I wanted to say. And then I'd come in and I would just start rattling off things like, hi, Mr. Jones. So do you realize there's 300,000 people would make $80,000 a year, and we have 400,000 square feet. It's $28 a square foot. How much space do you want? And they would just sit back and, like, easy, like, listen to what I'm telling you. I have a business. I want to, I have 4 pizza shops. I want to grow to 3 additional over the next 2 years. We like this part of town, but we're concerned about, how many high school kids there are, or where we're going to have, or those type existing competition.
Demographics, the psychographics,
right.
All of that.
And really listen to what they're telling me in terms of opportunity is they want to solve a problem. And the reason why I have that cookie cutter kind of image on my deck is that I realize that in the real estate business, a lot of it is a very cookie cutter solution. If you see 2,000 square feet that's vacant, there's a very short list of the types of tenants that most brokers or most landlords want to fill in that 2,000 square foot vacancy. And I didn't want to be that anymore in terms of doing my job. And that's what I kind of felt I was starting to get pigeonholed into in the corporate world, was I had to prescribe my solution to a preordained puzzle. But as I realized, people in real estate, it's not a one size fits all proposition. You have to be able to, or at least I had to be able to flex a different muscle and think about the world and retail in a different way. So I just started my own business to give me the freedom to do that.
Mm-hmm. And it was through, again, listening, taking what you've gotten, but then also learning how to tell the story. Now, I'm assuming with your clients, and by the way, ladies and gents, he's in the shopping center industry. And so when we say commercial real estate, and correct me if I'm wrong, it's brick and mortar. So it's shopping centers and it's it's also the airports. They've become their own shopping centers themselves, and you handle SeaTac, right? And DIA and some others. And so that's important that you said at the time you weren't listening, then you started listening. So now you know how to tell the story as to why your property is best for them. If it is best, because you've listened to them to see if this is the best fit for them. And if not, having your own company, you now know where to put them in another shopping center, in another area in town, or someplace else in the country. So let's take a step back and let's let the audience know that the goal of the session today, because this is Ask the Expert. And so through storytelling, you can do all things in terms of growing your business, your brand, your products, your services. So talk about the key goal of the session. It's really, I love what you put here, Robb, about stepping back and mining your own authenticity. Is that, Robb, your own authenticity within yourself and your company, or both?
I think you have to kind of start with yourself, right? I mean, for me, it's funny because I think about my parents weren't business people. They didn't go to an office every single day. My dad worked for GE, and went to a factory literally every day. So I don't know where the idea of being a business person, I mentioned the 80s earlier, just because, watching TV, all the TV, Dynasty and Knots Landing and Miami Vice, LA Law, everybody had suits on and a briefcase. So I was like, that's what I want to do. And so I went to 7th grade I didn't have a book bag. I had a briefcase. I used to put my homework in because I was just trying to have that mindset. But that's authentically who I wanted to be at that time. I didn't know the problems that you have in business, but I wanted to be that. And I think the authenticity of that allows me now to look back and figure out, where my opportunities are to grow, where I can refine myself, refine my skill set, and actually avoid the things that aren't really authentic to me. I actually have to write a letter to a potential client today that we're just going to pass on that opportunity because I've just seen a few things in our early on, discovery of the client that don't match what we want to do. And it's hard to say no to business, but at the same time, I went on into business for myself to be able to make those decisions and lead them to a better service provider for them, and not everyone has that opportunity either. Because I've also been on the side of the ledger where I took on clients because the business was new, because I needed to pay, bills.
We've all been there.
Right. Yeah. And I still did a good job, but I didn't tell the client all this stuff at the time, but it was like, I got to do this because I need to get, I have to make money. But I think you start with yourself in terms of the authenticity, and then realize that as special as your business is to you, there are likely, as Barbara said earlier, there's likely people that do that. So why would I hire you? And that's the question I ask myself. Why is someone going to hire me versus literally the tens of thousands of other real estate brokers that are around the world, or the United States, or the hundreds that are in Denver, Colorado? And it's because I look at things differently. I do look at real estate in a different way. I'm not driven by just a transaction. I'm driven by building a community. I'm driven by helping you have a long-term fit and partnership with your client if you're the landlord. And if you're the tenant, I want to bring all my landlord experience to you so you can have a stronger lease document to give you a better opportunity to be there for the long haul, as opposed to just shoving tenants into a space and saying, well, good luck. I really want those people to do well.
And we've all been there. And I think people who are watching can relate, especially entrepreneurs. You do things to pay the bills. You do your best at it, but you do it to pay your bills, and then you move on. And that's the beauty of once you've built your own power story, people start to then learn who you are because of your story. And then you've probably gotten to the point where now, and you had said, that tenant was the one you wanted to work with, this person that you're about to write this letter. That's the beauty of, but you probably have other tenants who know of you through the power of who you are, what your brand is about, starting with your story, who can fill that funnel, because we are business owners. So, so the power of your story, really helps you and has helped you probably grow your business. And because it's your personality, it's your brand, it's your tone, it's everything. I'm assuming. So we're also going to talk about, so the key goal too is, ladies and gents, we want you to start asking questions about and sharing with us perhaps your story, a little piece of it, posting it, because we're able to see your comments, obviously, and asking any questions that you might have where you might be stuck in developing out your story. Because you have to think about, as Rob said here, what led you to your second act, whatever it is you're doing in life today, in business and in life. What problems does your company, your business, so even if you're working for a company, what problem are you solving? And really, as you say here, Rob, why should anybody hire you? If 9 out of 10 people are doing the same thing that you're doing, why should anybody hire you? So yeah.
Well, it's funny because I have to tell you, I still am surprised by it. It still happens to this day. But years ago, when I first started, I got a really big client, and I was pursuing it, doing all the different things. And eventually they told me that they said, the reason why we decided to hire you is because you called us back in a reasonable amount of time. And I'm like, well, what about all the decks that I did? And what about my experience? And what about this? They're like, yeah. A lot of people sent those kinds of things. And by the way, your deck wasn't the best one. And there were people that had more experience. But they said, we love the fact that whenever we talked to you, whenever you said you were going to do something, you did it. You sent an email and you followed up, or you called when you said you were going to call. And if you couldn't call, you would send an email explaining why you couldn't call. And they said, we know you're a small business. We want to give you a chance, but we think it's going to work out because you are responsive. And I was blown away by that. And I'm still blown away that we get business today. Obviously, we have experience now, but a lot of times, after we sign the contract, the same conversation, like, hey, we know you're in town. We know you do this and we do that. But I just like the fact that, you call us back, or that you return my email. And so I'm sitting here thinking, I can't believe that in the 13 years I've been in business, that there's still companies out there that just don't call people back. Like, you want to make money, but you don't call clients back. Like, I don't understand it. But authentically, that's me. Like, I want to make sure that I close the loop. So if I say I'm going to do something, I do it. I can't do it, I'm going to tell you I can't do it. And even in that situation where I'm quote unquote losing business, I'm still gaining credibility because I'm being honest with the client, and they appreciate that.
Authenticity.
Yeah.
Now, Lupe has a question. How far back do you go in a story? And how do you adjust your story based on who you're telling it to?
So I go far back. Well, some of it is based on time, right? I mean, it's rare that I have this much time to talk in a business forum about just kind of what our history is. But yeah, I go back. I think if it's 30 minutes, it's 15 minutes. It gets shorter and shorter and shorter. But I always do a lot of homework on who I'm going to be talking to, so I can figure out what I need to convey to them in that super small window that I might have, and give them kind of the highlights that are going to help them make a decision to, at that point, maybe just have a follow-up conversation. I'm not trying to close the deal necessarily in the first conversation. I know it takes time. And so I'm just trying to build confidence that, we can work together. I adjust the story based upon the expertise that I've gained over time, and figure out, again, what answers can I provide to the questions that I'm hearing them say, or what problems do they have that they don't even realize, but they're kind of sharing with me what they need. They're expressing a problem. And the problem may be a good one, but there's a reason why we're having this conversation. So then I will just pull out various stories. It's not the same story every time, but I pull out things that are important to that particular client.
That are true and honest and authentic. Right. And I love this, that you talked about the purpose of storytelling. Do you want to tell us a little bit about this?
Right. I mean, if you look at this, I mean, there's two sales, kind of two moments where there's a sale going on in the journey of storytelling. The first is you're selling yourself. And so you want to set the table that, I'm a real person. I'm just like you. I have a different experience, but probably similar to yours. So I'm just selling myself, not, everything that I've accomplished. It's just me, the person, because in business, that's really the deal, is like whoever your clients are, you're dealing with people, and
Yeah.
they have to be able to relate to you or have a rapport with you, or you're not going to get the gig. I mean, no matter what you think your expertise is all about, if they can't relate to you, it's going to make it a very difficult assignment. And then from there, you want to demonstrate, the education that you've acquired about the customer. So, I'm authentic. I've taken some time to learn about you, some things that are important to you. I read an article. I mean, it's way easier now than it was 20, 30 years ago in business to just Google a company and learn, oh, they just opened a new office, or they just closed a new office, or they just got a big deal, or they're having to lay people off. Going into a meeting and knowing those things allows you to get a sense of what, their immediate concerns are and their
Yeah.
long-term vision. And you need to, as Lupe asked in her question, you need to tailor your pitch to them at that moment based upon everything you know about them. So if you go in blind and you don't know they have layoffs coming, and you're like, hey, I love your company, I know there's great things ahead. And like, wait, didn't you just read that we're going to lose 300 jobs over the next, 6 months? So make life easy. And if you can learn about them, then you can resonate with them in a way that helps them understand, oh, you understand me, you probably understand my customer. And now we can really sit down and build some credibility. They can have some affinity towards you because you're not just selling them a product, a service. You're talking about what you do authentically within the context of who they are. Again, person to person. And then all of a sudden, the quote unquote selling of your business becomes really easy. And I've seen this happen to me in the midst of my selling. Someone just says, hey, it seems like you understand what we're doing. So here's what we really need. We really want this, this, this. We really want you to do this, this, this. Have you ever done that before? No, I haven't. Well, you know what? Let's start the other things and we can build to this new thing that we think we need. So there's an arc here. It starts with selling yourself. The business will sell itself once people believe in you and your understanding of their business, and you've educated yourself and found ways to resonate with their customer.
I love that. And what advice would you have for a lot of our quite a few of our ladies, Second Act Women insiders and community members, are coaches in various realms? What can you, and they're very important. They do very important work. We all believe. So how can a business or a life coach or a wellness coach, you could pick one, how can they stand out against the others? Because we come out of corporate America, very experienced, a wealth of knowledge, broad scope of that expertise that they're now helping to mentor in a sense and lead women and men into doing their best or doing better or growing their business. There's a lot of them out there. What advice can you give them to stand out? How can they develop their story to stand out from the others, do you believe?
I would imagine there's a reason why they decided to become a coach, whatever the stripe of coaching that they provide. I think that's probably pretty important. And I think the other part of it is when people seek that type of intimate coaching from someone who can advise and help you clear through the clutter, I think that a personal story of when you were yourself kind of intimidated or overwhelmed or confused or just unaware of how to move forward, those personal accounts of failure, so-called failure, I say so-called, because I think that the failure that we have, or as we prescribe or say, well, I'm a failure. Well, maybe in that moment at that one task. The real failure is not taking what you've learned and reapplying it to what you're trying to do and moving forward. So in that case, that quote unquote failure is just kind of a lesson, and I look at it as an opportunity to to face the honesty, right? Of, you know what, I was unprepared. You know what, I really didn't understand my customer, or I was in over my head with this particular, opportunity. I'm not a failure, but now I've learned, which means I'm better today than I was yesterday. I'm better prepared than I was yesterday, because at least now I know the reality of where I am. And I can't really fool myself or the customer anymore about what it is I'm providing. So I think those stories that I've heard, that unfortunately I continue to write myself as I, fall and scrape my knee on a couple different things at times. You just have to accept it. If your heart is in the right place, if you've done the homework and your mind is in the right, frame of, you have the right frame of mind to provide the best service and product to your customers, then you're just learning, and I think we put too much pressure on ourselves as accomplished people that I should have known this. How could I make this mistake? It's like life is a moving target. People are moving targets. Meeting someone's needs can be a moving target.
Right.
So you can't put that pressure on yourself and expect to be right all the time.
Yeah. And I like what you said, that it's true. What they're bringing in their story is, they may be doing something that's similar to the next woman next to them, but their story is like DNA. They have their own story that person, that next client can relate to, because they're being authentic, which I personally love it when someone has been there, done that, failed, as you said, scraped their knees, got up, and then they're coaching me because they've been there. So they get it. So I think that's important. An important point that you said was your own story. And again, it has its own DNA. So it's resonating and relating to that person.
Yeah.
Right.
And I just want to add, and the reality is, particularly at this point when we're all facing second acts, right, in our lives, if you're in business, you've been around business. So if you're just going to, if you're a life coach and you just tell someone, my life has been great, I haven't had any problems, so tell me about your problems. That's not even, like, no one's going to believe you, And it's the same thing for me. If I tell someone, hey, we're working on this new development, and every tenant we put in this shopping center is going to do $1 million in the first month, that's not even real, right? So people just know. So you could just skip all the,
We're also, frankly, us being in our second act, all of us, Mr. Robb, we can sniff it out. We can smell it. I mean, because we've all been there, done that at some point in our lives, and we can tell when something is real and something seems a little off or a little fishy. So what about a woman or man who is in their second act? They want to switch careers. We say swivel. And they need a story to tell to get the job, because it's very hard for our ladies to obviously, or even keep the job, or land a job, even if they're trying to go back into their own industry, especially during this she session. How can the power of storytelling help that person in career?
Yeah, I mean, this is one of the reasons why, I'm so kind of proud of you and Lupe for propping up second act.
I got my lashes on. Don't you make me cry.
No, but it is true. I mean, ageism is real. I mean, it's real. And as I've told you guys before, and I'll share today, I think the biggest mistake companies can make is looking at age as somehow a deficiency, or putting themselves at some deficit. I mean, the experience
or something. I probably shouldn't use that term, but
but the experience that I think people bring to the table is the key. And I think as I look at my journey, right, and what I knew when I was younger versus what I know now, the youth drives you, and you can put your shoulders back and your head is up high because you just got the job. And but you don't know what you're talking about. Like, you just don't. And you can be super smart and you can have had success, but the breadth of success and the depth in which you understand a business only comes with time. And I think that the companies in which I would be interviewing that are looking for someone who's younger, more spry, with less creaky knees than me, you know, I would tell them that, look, Johnny can run around the block 75 times without, taking a breath. But at the same time, he's going to miss the opportunities for us to do business in that sprint. And I'm going to be there to be moving through the motions of the business at a moderate pace, but also identifying opportunities, helping us avoid challenges that I've seen when I used to sprint around, and I think it's just telling your story about the successes you've had in business, how you look at business differently, what value you bring to the table. And the one thing that, because ageism in a lot of ways, I'm sure I confront it, but in terms of acquiring new clients that already have an existing staff of people, sometimes I say to them, we can bring new IP, intellectual, property to your organization much more quickly because we have experience in what we're talking about. Yes, your company can do these things, but it's going to take you 2, 3, 4 years to learn what we've already learned. So yes, you have an accomplished staff, and yes, quote unquote, we're expensive, but you're going to get, 18 years of experience in 6 months versus trying to build up your staff in 4 years to save whatever the number might be, a couple $100,000, $10,000. You're cheating yourself because you're not going to learn what I've learned in 4 months, what took me 18 years to learn. So just quote unquote, pay the price and get the benefit today. And I think that's how I would kind of suggest, some people reevaluate their value, I should say. A lot of times we feel like we have to be better than we are, and that's not true. The fact that people discriminate on various, in various ways, don't let them make you think that you don't bring amazing value to the table. You just have to convince them that they're looking at the world a little differently, and you bring immediate advantage to the table for them. Yeah.
I love how some of these people, Verona was saying authenticity wins every time. Yes, it does. And Lisa is right. When we were talking about the hard sell, or we were talking about telling your story in entrepreneurship, in other phases of segments of business, we can definitely sniff out the hard sell. And authentic experience wins from Michelle Fox. It's interesting. Some of the things that you said, I had to write down. I love the fact that you said you're cheating yourself. And I think those of you that are watching that are looking for your next thing needs to keep in mind those numbers that you just gave, the quality versus quantity that you just gave about how the companies are cheating themselves, and writing into your script of who you are and your storytelling the value of bringing that number 18 in experience, or whatever it may be, an experience, because that's a pretty powerful number when you're up against, when a company needs to move the needle and that bottom line, and they've got 2 candidates and one is in their 40s and 50s or 60s, and they have the 20 years, and then you've got maybe 2 years and just out of college. Why would you waste? Now, I believe that intergenerational teams are key, and Lupe and I are continually saying that. And I know you would agree, because there is something about having that synergy between teams and the age groups, and how we all learn from each other, and we work well together and all of that. But instead of just having these exennial teams and early millennial teams, we need to, corporate needs to listen to people like you, Rob. Are you hiring? I'm sure some of these ladies would want to know.
Well, I definitely want to use you guys as a platform to broadcast, employment opportunities, as a important side note, or maybe that's the front note. but you're making me, this is not about storytelling, but this is in terms of how I price things at times. So like when we're doing government contracts, for example, and let's just say that we've scoped out the price of the value of the work at, say, $100,000. And the client says, well, that's more expensive than whatever, an employee or a previous consultant. I have to go into that understanding what those pressure points are for that client, right? So if I know that the IT person on the client side has a $90,000 salary, but my pricing is $100,000, I can actually say to that person, I'm cheaper than that $90,000 employee, because that $90,000 employee also has, a benefits package, and the downtime when that person leaves of bringing someone on board is going to take 2 months or 3 months. You got to find a person, you got to train that person. It may cost you $150,000 to have that whole thing be revamped, rather than bringing us in time. And also, when a person leaves, think about the intellectual property they hold in their head, right? So unless they've told you every single thing that they do and how they do it, there's a lot more to lose than just money. And I think that's an important piece to go into interviews with, is that this is not just about money, it's the culture and improving processes that don't necessarily have a direct correlation to the bottom line, and then give them a story around them. To keep it around their storytelling, tell a story to them that helps them understand, because that person interviewing you usually has 3 or 4 interviews that day in a stack of 50 that they've got to get through. So if you're going to stand out, contextualize what you bring to the table, how you can immediately help them, either what you've seen in the interview process or what you read online about what they're doing, to demonstrate how your expertise and your age is an asset to what they're trying to do.
I love that idea, because actually we do sessions for resume writing and interviewing, and we're going to be doing an event that you know about. I think we told you guys in the last meeting, this employment event in August, and that's a great idea, is to add into your script, again, of interviewing for the job, your own story. They're going to ask you anyway, what are your strengths, what are your weaknesses, why wouldn't you weave all of that into your story, considering the power of storytelling? So I think that's a really great idea. And Lupe had a question here. Do you recommend inserting personal examples into a bigger story, i.e., women in second act, or do you lead with your personal story and tie that into how your story / company meets the need of the community / client?
So there's a yes and a maybe in there. I'll start with the maybe first.
Okay.
Short of me having an opportunity to speak this long, I think the challenge of personal stories is being authentic, but then keeping your personal story on task with the mission that you have at that moment. So in an interview process, you're trying to impress this person, not that you're a great person, but that you can do this job. So, you want to do all those 5 things that was on that one page of the deck. You want to do all those 5 things in 30 minutes or 45 minutes. In a personal story, unless it immediately speaks to how you are going to be an asset to that company or to that opportunity, if it doesn't do that in a clear way, then I would say don't put it in into the dialogue. But if it's something that kind of resonates about who you are as a person, or how you solved a problem, or how you quote unquote failed, but then you turned it into a great opportunity, absolutely share that story. And it's funny, it's one of those things that sometimes in movies, like TV is not a good example, nor is the internet, right? But sometimes in these movies where you see people in job interviews, they're looking around the office and they see a picture on the wall and they're like, oh, so Mr. Jones, I see you like fishing, like those things actually can help you break the ice a little bit. And then if you have a fishing story, then tell the fishing story, right? Or if you see someone, a great, whatever, it could be on their desk, it could be a piece of art, it could be accessory to what they're wearing. If you're like, oh, I really like that. I was just trying to buy one for my sister the other day and I couldn't find it, or I found it and it was great. Just to make some kind of other connection.
Yeah.
I think that's always good to do, but you got to be careful because you don't want to seem to be distracted, or you don't want to dive into a conversation that kind of turns left all of a sudden. You're talking about something that's kind of too personal to talk about at work, which is, kind of one of those, double-edged swords.
Yeah.
Yeah, for sure.
Or having those squirrel moments.
Yeah.
That I have.
Great. That's authentic, though. That's authentic. Just
at least I always note when it's coming on. Squirrel.
That's right. Keep the acorns away. That's right.
Right. So we would love to know if anybody else has any questions. Let's talk about the homework assignment before we come to a close, because ladies and gents, Second Act Women, that is our thing. Lupe and I love to give homework. Not that we like to get it when we were younger, but we want you to do the work. And so, Rob, you have a homework assignment for them. And if you can go back to the first page, but just 9 seconds. This one?
The very beginning, where we go, there we go. Those three things. Think about each one of these bullet points. What led to your second act? What problem or problems does your business solve? And then why should someone hire you? I've done this exercise many times, and it's surprising that over time my answer kind of changes a little bit and kind of moves along kind of with me. But I think it's important that we can kind of answer these questions, in a very brief amount of time, so that someone can understand who we are and why we're here and why we solve problems and why we're the ones to be kind of under the tent with them, helping them drive their business forward. And they can hire anyone they want to, as special as I think my business is and what it brings to the table. There are other people that make the same claims, and there's other people that have better relationships with my potential clients. So who I am is that one unique thing, as Barbara said earlier, the DNA. That's the one thing that no one else can bring to the table, is the DNA. So how does my DNA help your business? How does my DNA help you solve problems, elevate your business, amplify your messaging in a unique way to improve, your real estate, or to, help you be more of an asset in the community? So that's what we try to do as I approach new opportunities, is figure that out. And sometimes, honestly, there may not be a really elegant way to demonstrate the connection. And at that point, I'm just like, hey, I really want to work with you guys. I work hard. Please
be authentic. Yes.
Right. Please talk to my, to my references. We're not going to, we're going to be there for you. And that's that authentic. That's the truth too, right? Is that I don't have experience doing this, but I would love to work at it. And we can do a short-term contract if so if you don't want to do a year, let's do 90 days. And if I can't demonstrate that we're a good match in 90 days, no harm, no foul, and then we'll move forward. But if we are, we'd love to earn the other 9 months of the year to be, part of your team. So don't go into it thinking there's one way to get this job done. Offer yourself in slices, in fractions of who you are, so that you can get your foot in the door and then demonstrate value and prove that you know how to work and you can fit in their culture and their environment. And by the way, that's kind of good for you too, because you may think you want to work with someone, but then once you start working with them, and after they've taken off their best presentation of themselves, you see what it's like working with them. They're calling you, emailing you at 10:30 at night, expecting return email, return phone call. And then all of a sudden you're like, wow, no wonder this job was available. Nobody wants to work in this environment.
It's like you're putting them in their own, in your probationary period.
Yeah.
That we all remember back in the day. And I would love for you guys to blow up the comments and let us know who is going to take on this homework assignment. Just say, yes, I'm doing it, and give us the date of when you're going to get it done. And I will post this inside of this, the comment section, so that you all have this. But comment and let us know that you're going to get this homework assignment done. You're creating your own 90-second story, which is different from your elevator pitch. Keep that in mind. It's very different from your elevator pitch. Pieces of it could be interwoven into your elevator pitch, but each one of the goal-oriented bullets above that we talked about. Let's get those comments going. Let's do it. Love it. Okay, so we've got Verona, who said that she is going to do it. Lupe, I will challenge you. I'll do it too, Lupe. Oh, she said, let's do it, B. That's to the both of us. Michelle Fox, Lisa Merritt, are you all going to take the challenge and write your own story? Rob, we want to thank you for coming today. This has been really educational, and we can't wait to involve you in more things within Second Act Women. For those of you that are watching, the one thing I didn't talk about at the very beginning, a piece of my story is that I hesitated moving on this thing that I have been doing for 5 years. And so thanks to Rob, he pushed me to move on this thing, this Second Act, this thing that has become Second Act Women. And of course, Lupe was right there with me. And so, Rob, I just want to say thank you for being an advocate of me personally and the company, and you sharing your authenticity always on screen and off screen. This is who you are, and you're a spectacular human being. And I am honored to call you a friend. I know Lupe is as well, an advisory board member. So we thank you for joining us. And before we go, I want you to stay in the green room so I can take a picture of you and I, so that when we repost this, we have a good picture of you and I. Look at Lupe. She's like, whoop, whoop. Michelle Fox is in. She's going to write her story. Michelle Fox just started her own company. So I appreciate you. And any lasting or parting words before you stay in the green room while I come to a close?
You better have some drinks and snacks in the green room. That's number one. It's almost 5 o'clock. But no, thank you for the kind words. But I definitely appreciate it. And, helping you and helping Lupe, has been, it's been great, to see you guys just continue to flourish and to fly and reach new heights. So, I'm certainly happy to make myself available to this. It's an important thing. It's important, I guess, service, tool, community, advocacy, like all those words, but are not just words. They're just, it's a movement that you're creating that is needed. And I think it's going to continue to grow and echo amongst the community here. And, people need it, and I say people need it because there are women that need it, that obviously, feel like they're not being able to kind of spread their wings and fly and realize their maximum potential. But men need it too, because the men need to understand how they are cheating themselves and hurting their businesses and their own growth opportunities by not opening the door to very capable and accomplished women. So it's a universal thing that you're part of, and it's a rare opportunity to see someone do something so transformative. So thank you for including me, and I hope that some people have found out one or two things here of value this afternoon.
Absolutely. It looks like Nancy McKay just joined us, and she not only just said absolutely right, Rob, but she can't wait to watch the replay. And and Lupe just said mic drop. So we thank you again, and stay back there. And I'm going to close out the show. I want you all to continue watching for a moment. We're going to talk about our event this fall. So we'll see you later, Mr. Rob, and God bless.
All right. See you later.
All right. How spectacular was that? We hope that you all learned so much from Rob. I was taking notes. So every time I had my head down, if you didn't notice, I was taking notes. I hope you were doing the same. And if you are new to the community of Second Act Women, this has been broadcast on YouTube, our LinkedIn channel, and right here within our 4,000 plus Facebook community of Second Act Women, we hit the magic number. We want to invite you to become a paid member of the Insiders. And those of you like Verona and Nancy McKay and all of those that have been chatting us up in the comments can tell you it's a really wonderful community of women. It's global. We have people from the UK and Australia to right here in Denver, Colorado. And these are all the things that you get for 50% off. Only $99 a year. You are getting all of these things that we have here on screen, including 30% off to all the other events, free workshops. We have Shop Women Owned, 4050.com that we are relaunching in time for the holidays, our own online mall just for women over 40 and 50. And so we encourage you to invest in yourself and spend that $99 only. That's all it is. And we would love to see you on the other side of Second Act Women. Now, I want to tell you, we have two fabulous events next week. We have one with Nancy Kay that's coming up next Thursday at 10 a.m. And we have another in the afternoon. And pardon me for forgetting the times of the other, but we just want to encourage you to go to the Facebook community page to look at events and sign up for those events. We're actually doing a special session, Lupe and I are, this Saturday. We're doing equine coaching with Nancy McKay. Yes, we are going to learn how to work with horses and heal ourselves and what other ways we need to be healed. And so we're really excited about that. And lastly, BizLifeCon coming up, and I am so excited. This is how this company started. Rob brought me a bouquet of flowers that day. It was our very first event and conference, and the only one of its kind in the United States, specifically tailored and curated for women over 40 and 50. It will be taking place this September 23rd and 24th. 23rd, we're going to do a little insider special happy hour the night before, and then that day live in Denver, Colorado, we will be hosting you at the Commons on Champa downtown. We hope that for those of you that are out of town, you can fly in because you're perhaps vaccinated and the pandemic is at its end. So we look forward to seeing you this fall at that event. And then we will announce our employee event that we're doing with General Assembly in August coming soon. So with that said, I want you to have a blessed day. And I just thank you from the bottom of my heart for being with us today. And make it a great week. It's only Tuesday. There's lots more to the week. You know you can do it. Bye.